Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of The Invisible Men. Hello, Nike. How are you?
Ian, I'm doing great. And it's not often we get a Super Bowl champion on this show, so I am really excited.
Wait, me?
No, not you, the Congressman.
Yeah. No, flag football champion. Flag football. No, we have the honor of Congressman Burgess Owens from the great state of Utah. Hello, Congressman Owens. How are you?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for this opportunity. We were talking about it a little before we got started. This is a conversation that we need to have as often as we can, and I'm excited about living in the era we're in with remarkable leadership we have across the spectrum, and we all have the same message. This is the greatest country in the history of mankind. We have a race we should be very, very proud of. Great big shoulders we can stand on. We need to know about that and educate ourselves so we can move forward. So I thank you so much for, first of all, this insight, this vision, and thanks for inviting me to be part of it, for sure.
Well, thank you for being one of those shoulders that we can all stand upon. So let's talk about you. Actually, before you were a congressman, before you were a national football player and the Super Bowl champion, before you were the entrepreneur, before you were the author, just when you were growing up. And when was it that you discovered that race was a thing, that it was a factor in terms of how either you thought of yourself or how people thought of you?
That's a good question, because I say all the time, I'm so blessed to have been raised when I was raised. I was raised in the Deep South, in Tallahassee, Florida. My first exposure to white Americans wasn't until I was 16 years old. So race was a big deal. It was a big deal because there were theaters we could not go in. When I was 12 years old, I remember standing in line in front of Florida State Theater with college kids, Florida A&M, demonstrating because we couldn't go into those theaters. My first exposure in high school, if you guys remember the movie Remember the Titans, that was my
Yeah.
high school experience. It was four black athletes, and we were the first to integrate this all-white school. But I think the most important thing in terms of making that transition was how we were raised. My dad was a World War II vet, very, very proud World War II vet. He took the GI Bill when he came back and went to Ohio State to get his PhD there in agronomy. His brother got his PhD in economics. They spent their lives in academia. Dad at Florida A&M, my uncle at Purdue, and then the University of Houston. But I think the most important thing was how they saw themselves. I
Mm.
think because of people like Booker T. Washington, the remarkable pride that he had, the message he had was very simply this: we can create value if we focus on faith, family, the free market, entrepreneurship, and education. We can be that race that people want to associate with us. We don't have to force ourselves on them. If we create value, they will want to be they will respect who we are and accept who we are. So that was kind of the way that my dad's generation was raised. So being a victim was an insult. The idea of being a victim was something they would never accept, and they would fight you if that's what you thought that you saw them as. So they came back, part of this remarkable middle class, and this is the message that I can't say enough. When I say I was blessed to be part of that generation, I witnessed firsthand what it was to be part of a successful family, number one, a successful community, and a community that believed that we had to cross the country, uh, prove ourselves through merit. It was and here's some things that many people don't know, and I like to say this as often as I can, because of those tenets I just talked about. It was the black communities during the 40s, 50s, and 60s that led our country to growth in the middle class, led our country men matriculate from college because college was our gateway. And teachers were so respected. They were the cream of the crop. They were the ones that were going to take our race and take it into the future with remarkably smart kids. So that was a very respected community institution. And if I ever came home having trouble in school, I also had trouble at home when I came home. There was no excusing me, no talking my way out of it. Those numbers, the success we had was so important to remember. So therefore, because of that, it's not hypothetical what we can do if given the right opportunities, given the right tools. That's why I love the idea of school choice. I love the fact that we can get out there, compete, bring the best kids in, give moms and dads a chance to have their kids to move to a different direction. So to answer that question,
Yeah.
I was exposed to the race issue, and being on the front end when I went to the University of Miami. I was the first. I was actually the third black to get a scholarship down there, and I went down there not to go to the NFL. This is important because in those days it was not that was not the trajectory. It was to get an education, and
Yep.
because of my dad's position, I went down to get a degree in marine biology. And it just so happened that it ended up taking me a different direction. So I just can't say enough about that foundation. And we're going to come back to that because we now see black men seeing their roles as being role models and really projecting strength again.
Sure. It's amazing. I'm doing some research actually on the performance of the black community in the first two-thirds of the century of 1900s, and it is amazing when you look at the data. The black marriage rates were high, black unemployment was high, children with being born within married households in the black community. It's as if we've just forgotten this entire segment. That's why I wonder, yeah, the fact that you grew up and your norm was a healthy, it sounds like married to parent household, healthy
Yep.
community. How do you think um, how much do you think that gave you the armor, I guess is what you're saying, pushing out any of these other kinds of narratives that seem to really hurt our community today?
Well, it's the armor that allows you to go through struggles and not see yourself as a victim. It allows you to realize that struggles are part of the process, and the more you can overcome, the more you can give back. That's one of the things. Again, I'm just happen to be reading a book by Bookton Washington right now, and the theme I just got out of the last a few pages I read last night is expect hard times. Expect to be strengthened through hard times. And what do you get out of it? Opportunity to go out and serve your community. It was all about serving the black community back in the early, well, this was back in the early 1900s. That's what his theme was. And we embraced that because here's a race that came out of slavery that didn't have a chance to have a family, that didn't have a chance to have a business, that didn't have a chance to go out and have your faith. So guess what happened when we got free? We ran toward those things in a way that no other community did. And that's why we grew as successful as we did. That's why we had the Black Wall Street, where we were out there. We weren't trying to prove ourselves to white people. We're trying to make sure that everybody, including ourselves, knew that we had what it took to be successful, to be examples, to raise the greatest and smartest kids ever. And so it is kind of natural that we were leading that direction because of what we didn't have before. And I'll say this too. I think the attack we've had on the black community was on purpose. I think we see what happened with destruction of our families. When I saw that, and when I was growing up, when all of a sudden you have the government making it very easy for women to go into apartment units as long as they didn't have children, as long as they didn't have a man in the house, they can have as many kids they want to get paid for more kids. It's breaking down, and then you have young boys seeing this, seeing that there's no strong men coming in and leaving in the middle of the night. That's your model. Guess what? It's going to be, that's what you're going to kind of trend towards. So my greatest blessing, if I could say this, his greatest blessings would have a dad who was truly a strong, devoted man, not only to his family, but his community. And he was like the Booker T. Washington. He wanted to make sure that our race was moving forward in a big way. So it can't say enough about that blessing that I can emulate pretty much as I grow up.
Congressman, was your dad also an athlete?
you know, you know, in those days they didn't have the options we have today. I would say he was because first of all he's a World War II vet. He's kept himself in shape. He got into judo. That I do
Oh,
remember. He got so he was a guy that very very independent. Matter of fact, I ran into some information about my great grandfather, who was also an entrepreneur, who was very much into. He started the first black church in the area he was in Texas, and he called him a fiercely independent. That was the word they used for my great great grandfather. That was my dad, fiercely independent. Everything he did was about how can he take his race, not only be an example, but take his race to another level. So when he built a business, he built some apartment units this is our side business. Part of that unit was for these at-risk families that came through. He built a store for the kids to learn how to run a store. That was their way of creating income. So those kind of things that we're doing. But as a race, that's what we were doing across the country. That's my point. It wasn't just my dad. It was the culture of our race to take it and make sure our kids were doing better. So we're getting back to that, by the way. And I'm excited about being part of it.
Yeah, I mean, like with so many of us, the family from which we were sprung is what helped shape our world. So let's fast forward a bit. I didn't realize that you were one of the first scholarship students at University of Miami. So what was that like? What was it like to go into an institution? Um, were
You
you
know,
welcome? Was it hostile? What was that like?
I've looked back on that again, and I think University of Miami was a real blessing for me. Again, I grew up in Tallahassee, so you had Florida State across the way, and of course you had LSU, you had all these other University of Alabama. Uh, Another thing I should mention to that, I was the third black to get a scholarship, but also when I went there, we led the country in terms of the amount of blacks we had. I think we had 4 or 5. There was 5 of us at the time. So, of all the places for me to go, and I went to Miami, really not knowing very much other than it gave me an opportunity to get into marine biology. I figured if I was going to do this, what a good place to go and to get a scholarship so I can get it paid for. That was kind of my thought process. um, what was interesting is when I got down there, University of Miami at that time, there was a lot of Northerners that would come to go to university. It was a private school. So in a sense, I was kind of in an oasis. I was at Deep South, but an oasis in which we were able to kind of assimilate into the culture, get a chance to get white friends for the first time. I remember my freshman year, uh, after hanging out with this one guy, he's a Jewish guy, was not an athlete, did not go to school, didn't go to his classes a whole lot, but he became one of my best friends. And I remember looking at Jeff one day saying, I forgot that Jeff was white. And that's the first time, by the way, in my life, I'd ever come to that point. Never had that ever happen. But that's what happens when you find things in common and you begin to, like we the people have those common bonds that allow us to think past the things that's on the exterior. And to me, University of Miami gave me that option to see that there were good people out there, and that I didn't have to raise my defenses every time I saw somebody with a different color. And so it was for me a good transition to get to where I can again get past all the issues that I was kind of worked through before getting there.
And what role did athletics play in that personal development during those years?
Uh, I think athletics, anytime you have a chance to compete, anytime there's merit involved, you have a chance to see number one who you are, what you're all about, and in the process of finding your very best, of going through the pain, of going through the inconvenience, the sacrifice, people looking at you begin to have respect for you also. So not only there's respect for yourself, because you see that you're willing to do what other people are not willing to do, and that's actually what it came down to. Getting to University of Miami, my biggest fear was not to make it. My biggest fear was failure. Uh, so what I would do is work extra hard, so I didn't. Even when it came down to my classes, when I left Tallahassee, I heard there was a white guy who had gone to Florida State, and he said that he didn't feel I'd ever make it in biology. And it's only because I was black. Nothing about my studies, my grades, is because I was black. That was my driver for 4 years. I lived in the library because of that guy. I wanted to prove him wrong. So when I was on the field, working hard, I was in the library to pass my classes so that guy would be wrong. So I would say that anytime we're in a position where we're competing and we get the what's the word? We get the mental habits that we just do the best we can and then take it to a step further. That is the greatest thing we can do. Physically, mentally, morally, we do it in those areas. We become our better selves, and people will respect us. They might not say anything at the moment, but they see on the outside that this is a person that really is paying a price, and that respect comes from that.
And I wonder, Congressman, were you sort of that first generation of these incredible DBs, defensive backs for Miami? Was you were you
Well,
the prototype for that?
I'm going to have to claim it since I was one of the first defensive backs. I have to claim that at least. But it really is something. Again, I was there when Miami was not winning all that much, which actually was good. I look back on it now. We might have won 3 or 4 games a season,
Oh,
but
wow.
out of that came an attitude, and it's one that I actually use today. Out of that came an idea because either you fall and you get negative, or you become an eternal optimist. And in my mind, I came out every season, every game, with the idea that it has to get better than this. So I'm just going to work until we turn this thing around. And now that I went through those 4 years, 4 years of the University of Miami, by the way, we didn't win any seasons. 7 years with the Jets, no winning seasons. But out of that came a message that my team here in Congress, we live by. And that is, we cannot control the scoreboard, but we can control the hustle. If you think about that, you think about the things you can't control, and all of a sudden it's an internal thing. It's not worried about what people say or what people think. Um, it is actually, you know, that you're doing everything you can, and out of that just comes a remarkable person, and growth out of it. So that's what we have to teach our kids. And by the way, what I love about your school and what you guys are doing is you have kids that come in and not really know that they have what it takes, but they start to see it around with kids around them, and all of a sudden they start seeing success in themselves, and the expectations go up.
Yep.
And you think about the muscle memory when that happens. You take that forever, for the rest of your life. You just know how it feels, and you expect it of yourself. We get that in our kids in a young age. The things we're going to be able to experience in the coming years is going to be remarkable. The talent we
Oh,
have out there,
so
the
great.
potential that we have not tapped into. It's going to be amazing to see that happen for sure.
I mean, that is why I love to run schools because, our motto is I reject victimhood. These skills become transferable, right? This
Yeah.
idea of resiliency that if you're able to, demonstrate this character-based strength on things like your exams or just how you're living your life, then you can apply that to applying to college or going for that next job or going for that next competition. Absolutely. So what was it
Can,
like
can I
being a
can I
school?
can I add to that? Just one single thing, because because one of the things that, again, I'll go back to Booker Washington. I'm realizing now when I read about him, that was probably my dad's hero, because of the things he ended up doing, the things he trained and teach us to do. And one of the biggest things that came out of that phase that he was running Tuskegee, knowing it's going to be hard to come in there. Matter of fact, he would keep the tuition low because the expectations were high, and he would keep it low because he expected, if you're gonna stay here, it's not gonna be because of cost. You're gonna stay here because you've actually done more than the people around you also want to be here. But the most important thing was this: when you succeed, you go overcome all the obstacles, is to turn around and let people know what you went through, and the message comes through: if I can do it, you can do it.
Yep.
That is such an important message that we can give to each other, and as we share our struggles, that it's no big deal. I'm no big deal. I just happen to just have tenacity, which you can learn, have hustle, which you can learn, and never quit. And if I can do it, you can do it. So that message can give that little bit of hope that somebody needs to just take it to their next phase.
I love it. I love it. So only one of the three of us has actually been in a Super Bowl game. Um, what's that like? What's it like to win? Just you're in a small
you know,
fraternity.
you know, again, one of the things that I've come to understand as we get older, you realize the Heavenly Father has a perfect plan. And as long as you do your best, you can be part of that. You can be part of that team. As I mentioned, my 4 years at the University of Miami, not one winning season. 7 years with the Jets. The Jets are doing today what they did 40 years ago. Cannot figure this one out, how to win. So 7 years, and I actually, my seventh year was so frustrated, was so kind of down, because you work hard and you expect it's gonna have to turn around, and after a while it doesn't turn around. You wonder, is it worth it? And I remember considering retirement my seventh year in the league. I mean, I look back at how silly that was, even for the thought to go through. But here's what happened. That frustration, that the drive that I had, was seen by the Oakland Raiders. So I had a chance to go to a team that was rebuilding, that brought about 13 guys in at the same time, and the
Wow.
synergy was just right. The synergy was such that even though we were rebuilding, we started to feel like, number one, we're so sick and tired of losing. I'll do anything to win. I'll play my part. And then Al Davis had this culture of second chances. And for those who remember Al Davis culture,
Oh yeah,
it was
sure.
very simply this. It was just simply this: if you're too old to rank boxers, too crazy, too wild for any other NFL team, you're just right for the Raiders. The Raiders was second chance. And so, so what was nice about it is that year um, allowed me to know that every other year was well worth it. I called it the 13th season because we not only was a wild card team, got to the playoffs, got into the Super Bowl, won it, but it was something that it made everything that we went through so well worth it. It made every single year of losing worth it for that one moment. I call it the 13th season. And my message when I talk to kids and really adults too, we all have a 13th season. We all have that moment where everything we worked for is in front of us. It could be a college, could be hopefully it's a family, it's a lifetime experience. But to get to the 13th, you got to go to the 12. And that's
Yeah.
the ups and downs. That's the tough times. That's when you say, man, why is this happening to me? But you learn so much through that tenacity, loyalty, forgiveness, vision, camaraderie. You learn all the things that you have to learn. So when that moment happens, you realize it was so good to go through it because this is where I am now. So that was a moment. Got to the 13th season. The next year we got very, very arrogant and lost our humbleness, and we went to the very bottom. So it's another lesson. Stay humble.
Stay
So
humble.
So,
anyway, yeah.
so Congressman, so you were, just for our audience, you were a first round draft pick into the NFL, had great success at the University of Miami on an individual basis. As you look back on your NFL career, we just talked about the high of a Super Bowl championship. Did you meet your expectations as you entered the NFL? Your personal
That's a very good question because uh, I was just having this conversation with one of my staffers. The expectation, obviously, when we get into something new, you never know where you stand. I mean, every step is a transition, and so you have to get your confidence at some point that you're in the right place, that you can still compete, that you can excel yourself. I came in with the attitude just working very hard. But my third year, my mom passed away, and when that happened, it took it to a different level. I decided to commit the rest of my career to being an All Pro. And it never happened when I was the Jets. The last year in my career, I was named All Pro, and I didn't think about that until later on. That as one of the driving factors that kind of kept me motivated. But every 11th for April 11th is when I started my training. I started putting things aside and not doing certain things because I wanted to make sure I stayed focused. But that was because that was the way when my mom passed away. So every year I would commit to that, and and to find out one day that and I look back that my dream of what I wanted to get done actually happened, and that wasn't again. It's just one of those things that realize again that it
Yeah.
all pays off in the end. Keep it going.
One last question on the athletics, and we'll move to all the other things that you have done
Okay,
and are doing. Who was the best athlete you ever competed against?
good question. It's interesting because as a defensive back, my goal was to be as aggressive and hit as hard as I could. There was one guy that made it difficult to decide how to deal with when he got to him. You had guys like Earl Campbell, he's going to try to run over you. O.J. Simpson's going to try to run around you. Larry Zonka going to try to run over you. Uh, Sweetness, Walter Payton was a guy that you didn't know he was going to try to run over you or around you until he got to you, and you couldn't
Right.
prepare for that. So Walter Payton was probably one of the most athletic, competitive, courageous runners I've ever seen, and I just had a lot of respect of playing against him, someone like that for sure.
Wow.
Incredible. Thank you.
Well, maybe a kind of a segue into the political realm, but I'm curious, even when you were playing in the NFL, were politics part of the discussions? Did you have the same beliefs you have now? And
It, it,
was that ever a conversation?
it never was, and to the point we were talking about earlier, is if you're able to find a mission, if you're able to find something that you're just really willing to take a risk for and go for, if you hang in there, if you hold on to it, it's going to all work out in the end. And I just talked about the commitment I made when my mom passed. That was a commitment that was heartfelt, and every single season I would work hard toward it. Almost so. So when it comes down to where I am today, And I left the NFL the last year I just talked about. I was an all pro, but also I had a business that I had that I was very excited about. And the business was tied into um, what kind of impact it would have on our kids. I saw that after 10 years in NFL, that what's happening in the black community was totally different than the way I was raised. So I figured if I could run a business, have a successful business, have a network, have examples, and show our kids that there's so many things you can do. That was the reason why, one of the reasons I ended up leaving. Uh, that business that I started on ended up going under. So one of the greatest experiences I had was failure. I needed to have it at that time in my life to realize that you got to stay humble. So, but what happened? That business allowed me to go into corporate environment, which I stayed for 23 years. Eventually moved to Utah, and when I was in Utah, I started a program again tied into that same vision I had of starting a nonprofit called Second Chance for Youth, working with at-risk kids,
Mm.
bringing kids out of the juvenile system, mentoring them, showing school job opportunities, so they can move on and develop their legacy. 3 years into that, I realized that if we didn't do things in DC to change what's happening here, our kids don't have a chance. If they can't read and write, if they can't love our nation, can't love themselves, then no matter what we did on our end, it's just going to get a bigger funnel to that process. That was the reason I decided to finally run for Congress. I figured that if we could change the educational system, if I could be part of that, then that would be the mission that I started off with 40 years ago, and to be today where we now have something in the legislative and legislation that I'm part of called the Educational Choice of Children's Act. Of all the things I say, my life legacy, this will be it.
Wow.
It's something that we're now having reconciliation. It works this way. It's an opportunity for individuals and corporations to invest or put into a nonprofit, get tax credits. This nonprofit, because it's a tax bill, has no oversight by federal government, no oversight by the state. It's strictly treasury. So it's a nonprofit. And this nonprofit, parents can come and and ask for dollars. By the way, it's a $10 billion cap. So every state gets about $20 billion they can use in this particular process. Parents can go in and ask for anything they want to, whether it be parochial, private, public, charter, um, um,
Even
trade,
religious, even
homeschool.
religious,
What was
even
that?
religious schools as well.
Exactly, parochial. Exactly. Anything a parent wants, this scholarship granting organization can give it to them. And for states like Utah and Texas and Florida, we stack that on top of their choice already. For states like New York or California, parents for the first time have a chance to go someplace that the state can't stop them and ask for funds to put their kids in the best school possible. It is
Changing.
transformative. It is one of the greatest things we can do. And at some point with this, and by the way, there's also an escalator clause. If 90% of the ask supply is 90% of that 10 billion has been asked for, then we go up another 5%. So as the demand is heightened, we can now put in more supply to that. So we're going to be in a position with things like this that choice will not ever be a conversation. And we just know that's a part of it. So that even the public schools will get better because they finally have to prove themselves. And if they don't do a good job, parents take those kids and put them someplace where they can grow. So competition
Amazing.
in the marketplace of education is what we've been lacking. Uh, and again, what you've been doing right now with the charter schools, imagine more parents not having been this long line of waiting. They say, I can do this. And then you have the funding to go out and continue to build. That's what we need to be doing. And I'm excited about being part of that process.
Yeah. So for our listeners, it is the ECCA. It's a very important piece of legislation that Congressman Owens is talking about. And it is a game changer. And the power of it is that, as you say, Congressman, there's no gatekeeper. A parent would be able to use this money um, because guess what? It is their money, right? And
Yeah.
and as
Yeah.
you say, it supplements what's already going on at the state. So, for example, in Texas, that just launched they just approved the largest education savings account. It's $1 billion. I think something like 100,000 families
Yeah.
are now going to have the
A
ability
man,
to have $10,000 to spend on any kind of school, and then the ECCA would supplement that.
that would add another $20 million on top of what you just talked about. that they can now give more parents opportunities. And think about our country. Our country is one of capitalism. Is building businesses. It's competing against each other. It's finding a more innovative way to make sure they get the best product at the least price. The only place that's not happened is education. We have
Mm.
purposely been kept out of the concept of capitalism, and therefore nothing happens, no growth happens. We're still back in the 1800s in terms of how sometimes our kids being taught, and there's no accountability if they're failing in that regard. So we need to bring this to it. I'll say this again: the blessing of a trifecta, the blessing of what American people on November 5th did to bring a Congress, a Senate, and a president that we can have this conversation. And the American people are backing us up big time. They're expecting this from us now. So we're in a very special place, to say the least, in our country's history.
Oh yeah, I mean, when it comes to parents and the topic of choice, overwhelming support, particularly in low-income communities and particularly in minority communities. That
Exactly.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a 74% of our Americans want choice, and I'll tell you what it does is this. I'm going to add another factor to this. I personally believe that what drives our culture is small business owners. Small business owners they first of all, they understand how to dream big. They take a risk. They realize if I'm going to grow, I need to have an environment where people come in with a bad day and they leave with a better day. So they can come back again and experience the same thing over again. Imagine the service mentality, the idea there's no race. I mean, I don't care what color you are. I don't care what kind of background. Come to my store. I'll give you a great product. I'll profit. You will benefit. That's the small business owner. The small business owners is what powers our middle class. Our middle class takes those same values of legacy, of a good name, of passing down something to their kids, of building something and giving back to our communities. That's the middle class. The bigger that middle class is, the freer we are, because we don't want anyone stomping on our dreams, telling us we can't do, and we're gonna make sure we stay free to do that. So the middle class has to grow. As we do this with education, more kids will begin to have the confidence to go out and take a risk on themselves. They'll have a vision past what's there and have innovation. Our business sector will grow like crazy. Our middle class will just expand like crazy, and our country again will be on the trajectory to have even more freedom, and more innovation, and it's a much better place to live, to say the least.
I mean, one of the things I love about your entire philosophy, it's all about empowering our communities to have the tools to be able to lead the lives that they want. And I'll have to say, when I first heard about your work, it actually was related to the national conversation we were having around reparations, which is a very different philosophy. That philosophy is much, no, 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 it's not about let the government, shower money. And you had an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. I just want to read a quick paragraph because I'd love for you to
Okay. Okay.
give give some color to the words that you wrote. At the core of the reparations movement is a divisive and demeaning view of both white and black races. It grants to the white race a wicked superiority, treating them as an oppressive people too powerful for black Americans to overcome. Simultaneously, it brands blacks as hapless victims, devoid of the ability which every other culture possesses to assimilate and progress. And then you end it by saying, neither label is earned. I remember
Yeah.
reading that and saying, man, who is this Burgess Owens? Tell us a little bit about the sentiments and how really that so conflicts with everything that you're saying. True empowerment.
Keep in mind the history I told about my parents, and I can't highlight that enough. I think the greatest insult right now to our past, not only our parents, our grandparents, and so forth, is the idea that we're hapless, that we can't do anything unless somebody gives us a break. And by the way, this never happens when it comes down to physical prowess. You don't see this kind of mentality when it comes down to basketball or football. It only comes down to our intellect. And this is the most racist concept that we've had to deal with literally for back to slavery days, that we can't think, that we have evolved from the monkey, and from the monkey, some way it came from us, and then to the white race. That whole concept that we are a lower species has been around for a long time. And if you think back, even on Martin Luther King, you go back, and that generation was not just fighting against Jim Crow. Look at when they marched. Think about the dress: white shirt, tie, dress shoes, in the middle of the summer, because they wanted to show people that they were also a people to respect, a people, they were articulate, they were smart. So we've been fighting two battles here. One is just to get into the door to compete. The other one is respect for our intelligence, like any other person, like any other race. And so reparation is only works if we accept that we are inferior. If we can accept that we have always been under the thumb of a more stronger and more superior race, and that we need to be given our due, because we couldn't do anything else but sit back. And this is why our history is so important. We learn the history of Booker T. Washington, learn the history of all the generations in between, but from the very beginning to now. Civil War, there would be pre-Civil War. We've had remarkable examples of people who overcame tremendous obstacles. We have no excuse today. In 2025, we have no excuse to go and not to go out and become the very best of ourselves. We can only do it to ourselves, and that's again what the Marxist left wants us to do, is to break everything down to race and say because of who we are, we can never succeed. So that, by the way, that article, we were talking about this a little bit before. That article is way before I even thought about being a politician. Never thought about this. But that article allowed me to have to go to a hearing to talk about reparation, and from that hearing, I was given an idea that maybe I should do something, maybe I should be part of it. So that was a very that was a very timely article. I was saying I'm thankful that I decided to put it together, because we have this conversation. I would say this, guys, we should also remember how blessed we are to have this group, this network that we now have. We found each other. We've worked hard. We can together work to make sure our race, our country moves forward, because it just comes down to being bold about the concepts we have, and moving forward.
Brilliant. Well, Congressman, we have a section in the podcast that we call the speed round, where I'm going to offer up a couple of individuals, ask you to pick one, and tell our audience why.
Okay.
So we're going to start with Malcolm or Martin.
Oh boy, I would say Martin, and because one of the things that happened during that phase is to show the discipline that we had as a people. We were articulate, we were smart, we were innovative, but the discipline to take all that stuff and to know that the faith was there, that our country would see it, empathize with us. Our country turned and looked at our race as one that needed to have opportunities, because they saw that we were not fighting, we're articulate, smart, and disciplined. Matter of fact, one of the things that Martin Luther King said, and again, 12th grade, I had a chance to participate in one of the demonstrations. If you cannot be disciplined, if you can't take insults, then don't come, don't join us. They needed people that, when people left, they said, "My goodness, what a remarkable race that is." So I would say Martin.
Al Davis or Ronald Reagan?
Oh my goodness, jeez, to my goats. My goodness, Ronald Reagan was my transitioning president. I became a Republican under Ronald Reagan because of just who he was, his optimism, his ability to communicate. I mean, he just had fun listening to him. Al Davis, though, I tell you, he didn't communicate the way Ronald Reagan did. His expectations very simply was this: come to my team, and you perform, or you go someplace else. He was all about winning. And it was that culture that I experienced that was such a rewarding culture. He didn't care about golfing. He didn't care about anything else. He cared about just winning, baby. So, to be honest with you, I see a lot of President Trump and the way that Al Davis operated. He cares about winning for the American people. And as long as you're on the field, he expects you to perform. If not, he'll find somebody else, because it's all about winning. It's not about if he likes you or not. It's about winning. So I would say those two I can really say are respect in different ways, in the same way.
Understood. Ronnie Lott or Deion Sanders?
Ronnie Lott.
Oh, that was
Ronnie
you.
Lott. Yeah. Ronnie gave it everything. He was a team player. Hey, I've had a chance to get to know Ronnie since we played, but he's the guy. I don't know if you know the story, but he broke his finger in one of the major games. He came in and he just asked him to cut the place off that was broken. I said, Ronnie, would you do that again? He said, no way would I ever do that again. But when you're all in, when
When
you're
you're
all
all in.
in, and oh, think about it. When you're all in and winning is what you're about, you do whatever it takes. So I appreciate that. But here's the most important thing I want everybody who's listening to this. You can be very talented, but it's really not about you. It's about the team. And your talent has to be an addition to the team, not a subtraction. And so I would say what I love about guys in that era, guys like Ronnie, we give the ball back to the refs, respect our teammates. We might not agree on everything, but when we got on the field, man, we were a team. Period.
Mm.
So I would say that Ronnie kind of reflects my era for sure.
Brilliant. Well, we'll end that there. That was wonderful. Thank you, Congressman.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, go ahead.
let me just say this. When I say it's all about team, uh, one of the things that Al was able to do, he's brought different minds, different talents. Some were very high noted, people like Jim Plunkett and Marcus Allen. Some people you'll never know the name, but they stepped on the field. They put everything they could on the field. They might come back or an intercept at the right moment, a punt return at the right moment. Everybody played a part. And that's where I see ourselves right now as a country. We're saying, I need to get on the field. I need to put my talents, whatever it might be, and make sure it's all part of it. What you're doing right now with the Invisible Man, I love it because it's important that we know those folks that are behind the scenes are doing their thing, not looking for praise, but just want to be the very best they can be. It all adds up to a remarkable team called America, and I'm just so excited about what you're doing right now, and we just got to keep it going.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, I have two final quick questions because one,
Okay.
I want to just get your take. You mentioned President Trump. This past election saw one of the greatest shifts in the minority vote that certainly we've seen for a time. What do you think is happening that is underlying this push? Maybe in a way you're saying people want to become part of the team, but now it sounds like they want to become part of a different team.
Yeah. Well, this is something I've been hoping for 40 years. Our race has always had has always had a foundation, a very conservative foundation. I grew up at a time where faith, family, the free market was all part of who we were. And the same thing with the Hispanic community, by the way, very faith-based and had that core. Uh, what's happening? I've always believed that at some point in our history, we're as we get close to the edge, it's going to be those communities that did not have a seat at the table in the old days that come back to their roots, come back to our roots, and because we're coming back to our roots, we bring our communities back. As we bring our communities back, we bring our country back from that abyss, and this is what's happening right now. The Democratic Party is addicted to the black community. Has not done as well. Has not as everything they've touched has turned our communities upside down to where we don't recognize it. Many of us who grew up in it years ago, and we're finally saying, you know what, uh, we're going to go back to our roots: faith, family, free market education. Which party gives us the best shot at that? It's the Republican Party. And with a President Trump who's bold enough, who's not a politician, he says what he's going to do. He gives you a promise, he keeps it, and the courage that he has is what we're looking for. Particularly men, young men want to see courage. They want to see something that people respect, and many times they're going to find it in gangs. They see that because you have a group that will say, "Okay, you're the man." We have young men now that saying, you know what, I see the right way to do it. And we have a president giving us a good example. I'm falling in love with my country again. I'm going to learn to be a good father, a good provider, a good leader. And now we have examples that are kind of showing how that works out. So we're on the right track. And I believe it's going to be the blacks, the Hispanics, the Asians, the Jewish community that's coming back to our roots. That's going to really be the major difference as we move forward. And I cannot wait to see the product of young men that's going to come out of that process for sure.
Wow. Well, okay. Well, then the very last question is an opportunity for you to speak to a young man, Daryl, who, as you know, was the inspiration that Nike and I had 30 years ago when we first created the Invisible Men. And Daryl is a 16-year-old black kid living in forgotten USA, um, single mom. Um, but in all likelihood, Daryl has never heard of your work, Congressman Owens, but
Yeah.
he's heard a lot of the narrative of how we have a society rigged against the lives of young black men. I'm curious, what advice would you give to Daryl?
I would say, Daryl, first of all, you are a miracle. You live in the greatest country in the history of mankind, and you're here for a reason. You have a legacy of success. If you learn your family history, you can find people who've done some remarkable things, great things, overcome remarkable things to get you to where you are today. And life isn't always easy, but it's worth it if you put yourself in a position of giving back. So learn from the process you're going through right now. Do the most important thing you can do, surround yourself with people that would encourage you to move forward. Surround yourself with messages that will let you know that you truly are special, that your race is special, that you can be a difference. You could be a big maker, a changer of where our trajectory is. And then go out there and hustle. When things get tough, know that you can get through it. Look at yourself as a victor, not a victim. And if anybody tells you different, get away from them. Anyone that gives you a message when you leave them, you're feeling lower, you're feeling less motivated, you're feeling less hopeless. Turn off the TV, turn off that channel, get away from them. Get around people that you might not feel that comfortable with because you have respect for them. But the more you know them, the more you know they're just normal people too. They're normal folks that make mistakes. And if they can do it, you can do it. So this is our time. You're living during a period that many Americans wish they could have, where you can make a difference. You can change the trajectory of your family. Your kids could want to hold on to your name. Your wife could want to be proud of the fact that she married you because you're providing, protecting them. This is your moment to thrive and to really grow. So dream big,
Big.
hustle, and serve. You get that done, and you'll make a major difference in our society.
Love it. Wow. Congressman Owens, thank you so much. You can't control the scoreboard, but you can control the
You
hustle.
can't control the hustle.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well,
By
thank
the way,
you.
just so you know, just if I ever think about moving very, very fast right now, all my muscles pull. So I have to be careful. I have to think now, move slowly, but hustle.
Okay. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right.
Oh,
Wow. Well, thank you for all of your wisdom and everything you've done and everything, the huge agenda that we still have collectively to finish together. So,
and
for all of our listeners,
my big ask, guys, is just count me in. Whatever you can think of that helps this get out. I'd love to be part of it. We have a remarkable window right now where a lot of our kids are listening. And while they're listening, let's just give them the right information, help them along. So thank you
love
much, uh,
it.
Nick, you and Ian. Thank you guys for everything you guys are doing. I
Yes.
really appreciate you big time.
Well, to all of our listeners, thank you. This is another episode of The Invisible Men. If you'd like to see other episodes, please go to www.invisible.men or wherever you listen to podcasts. Congressman Owens, thank you. Nike, any parting words?
I think he was talking to me and not Daryl with his recommendation. So I've got all that in here. I'm about to go. I'm about to go get after it, Congressman. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
thank you guys. I appreciate it.